I wouldn't use the word smart, despite I understand the meaning you put, the context of your question, because yes, the modern day authoritarianism is becoming more and more smart. The regimes all around the world are using not bloody but not less suppressive technologies and leverages on the oppositional leaders, including Armenia. What is doing Nikol Pashinyan? It's a blatant authoritarianism because he is violating very visibly, clearly, obviously, all kind of checks and balances guaranteed by Constitution. He is misusing and abusing his administrative resources, trying to silence oppositional leaders and leaders of the public opinion. I mean, for example, Samuel Karapetyan, or representative of church, who are not a part of the Armenian political field, at least we are not a part, and they are opinion makers in Armenian society, including Diaspora. I don't like to reflect my personal story or experience of being in prison because I think that I should serve more like an example than just a personal story of a political prisoner under Pashinyan's regime. But I wouldn't say politically motivated case, because when you say politically motivated, it means there is something in so-called case. And because of my political activity, this kind of crypto violations are becoming object or essence of his political persecutions. It's not true, because my case is totally built up on false, manipulative and twisted so-called evidences, and this is vague and null, so there is nothing in my case. As in many cases in Armenia, towards describing the situation here as a backsliding of democracy. What we face now in our country is, yes, backsliding democracy under the positive silence, I would say, of European Union and Western institutions, usually responsible for the human rights and fundamental freedoms preservation in the countries like Armenia. I should say that in my case, I should be more grateful to some European institutions, especially to our mother party, I mean European People's Party, which proud member RPA is since 2012. And this leading European political force acknowledged twice my case as a political prisoner's case, putting me in the list of Eastern Europe political prisoners like Navalny, Saakashvili, Belarusian oppositions, etc. And also there is another political family, global family of International Democrat Centrist Union, which also adopted several resolutions about my case. But it's not sufficient, not for me, but also for the political situation in my country, because there is a gap between some political statements and the reality on the ground. There is no doubt that even Prime Minister of Estonia, why I say even, I would like to be excused from my Estonian colleagues and friends, Estonia is one of the smallest EU member country, not very influential. But even if Prime Minister of Estonia or Malta would raise the question of political prisoners in Armenia during Armenia-EU summits, meetings, or on bilateral level, there was no doubt that this question would have been resolved. Opposition, yes, doesn't succeed in building up actual mechanism, if not to prevent, because it's impossible to prevent, but for fight and struggle for the freedom of illegally detained persons. And part of my mission out of prison, I feel myself like this, is to serve as a voice of the political prisoners still detained in Armenian and Azerbaijani prisons. When I say Azerbaijani, I mean Armenians, prisoners of war and leadership of the Artsakh Republic, because there is no doubt that this is the part of the same orchestra. So Aliyev and Pashinyan are playing in the same orchestra, trying to silence the active and proactive opponent Armenians, both in Armenia and in Azerbaijani, in Armenian and in Azerbaijani jails. And I consider Bako Saakyan or Levon Manatsakanian or Ruben Vartanyan the same political prisoners for the same case, for the same fight and the same reasons as Samvel Karapetyan or Mikhail or Bagrat Serpazans. Exactly. You stipulated very correctly. Nobody has a guarantee or indulgence for not to be being imprisoned for his political or her political views. This is a clear-cut reality. As to the question of fragmented opposition, I think that opposition, unfortunately, in general, is starting to reflect on upcoming elections much earlier than it should. And this election fever, I would call it, unfortunately, is a disease in political field, in oppositional field of Armenia. And this is one of the main obstacles why oppositional forces are fighting for their own political prisoners. So this camp-based approach or family-based approach to the imprisoned persons, for example, this is from Republicans, so another political forces should not intervene or vice versa. So this is one of the weakest spots in all this operational system opposition should build up to fight for freedom of political prisoners. And the main direction of this fight should be international area, international organizations, embassies, ambassadors in person, because they are not here for their arrest or retreat or as a touristic agents. They should continue to work as hard and as devoted for the human rights promotion as they did before coup d'etat in 2018. There is a great temptation to say that the situation in the current situation in our country is totally out of the box of any fundamental justice system proposals. We should be more frank here and say that maybe never during 35 years of independence Armenia had a really independent judicial system. But we should say that we had never a situation like this before under the rule of Levon Ter-Petrosyan or Robert Kocharan or Sargsyan. A justice system were transforming, and international institutions were very consistent in pushing reforms, supervising, raising their voice, criticizing. And now EU ambassador is delivering interview on one of Armenian media saying, we are supporting the system reforms, but we have no mandate to go into the private cases. So we built justice as a system, but when justice is unrepairable, is ill, and is totally under the supervision of the government, not as an independent branch, ambassadors has no voice to say it, has no eyes to see it, has no ears to hear it, has no tongue to stipulate it. So the situation as a symbol of the Eastern symbol of the three monkeys, nothing to see, nothing to say, nothing to hear. Now we can say that all the Western embassies are behaving similar to these monkeys, because they don't see, they don't say, they don't hear, and so they don't serve their purposes of promoting democracy in Armenia, because Armenia has also international obligations to promote free and just electoral system, justice system, human rights protection system, etc. So there is a huge gap between what is Nikol saying publicly and what is going on the ground. Let me start with the expression of begging your pardon and the audience pardon for my English, because during my detainment I had no chance to practice not only English but even Armenian or other languages. So sorry for mistakes I usually don't make. So as to your question, very serious one. I think this one is could cover the whole interview, because if I go into details, for example, impeachment. So the vote of in confidence to the government is one of the mechanisms still opposition has to prevent these elections, upcoming elections, being organized under the responsibility of Nikol Pashinyan, who is clearly showing to everybody that he will not allow democratic, transparent, free and fair elections if there is a threat for his rule. And this is clear. So what opposition should do now should be united under the flag of preventing Nikol Pashinyan's reproduction as a political regime, and not to fight for the more seats in the parliament, which, if the things are going like this until 2026, could be inevitable of reproduction of Nikol's regime. So the problem is not to have more seats in Nikol's parliament. The main challenge is to prevent the parliament to become again Nikol's. This is what the Republican Party is promoting, and this is the essence of our proposal of initializing this vote of confidence in the parliament. Yes, we are not naive, and we understand that this kind of political mechanism demands broad public support, and this is another direction that we should work together with all our opposition colleagues and friends. And I am still positive on that scenario, because I do believe that despite the current frictions, we could find a common language with our oppositional colleagues and the common ground to prevent these elections to be operation of reproduction of Nikol Pashinyan. We should abort Nikol Pashinyan regime, not reproduct.